You remember we made cider earlier in the day? Here's a cup. I love cider. I hope Liadan leaves out a cup for me. I'll take a sip from hers. This is a story about why we have seasons. This is the story of Persephone and the Pomegranate, written and illustrated by Kris Waldherr. A long time ago, when gods and goddesses still lived among humans, Demeter, the goddess of the harvest, had a daughter named Persephone, whom she treasured more than the earth. Together, they roamed through the forests and fields as Demeter brought forth food and flowers from the soil. Persephone loved her mother's company and was rarely seen apart from her. One day, as she gathered blossoms in a distant meadow, Persephone noticed a flower unlike any other she had seen. It was a narcissus, so deep a red it was, almost black. Its unusual color frightened her. Persephone did not pick it, but instead went home. She did not tell her mother about it. That night, Persephone dreamt of the blood-red narcissus turning into a cool, ripe fruit too delicious to eat. Abruptly, she awoke. She slipped out of bed and ran to the meadow where she had seen the flower. The narcissus was still there. Luminous in the light from the full moon, she forgot her fear and bent to pick it. What do you think's going to happen? Oh my goodness! Suddenly the earth split in two. Persephone screamed, dropping the narcissus. Out of the abyss leapt a gold chariot, pulled by 4 black horses. Its driver, a tall man, seized Persephone by the waist and pulled her into the chariot. Down, down they sped. Above them, the earth sealed shut with a shudder. Demeter was awakened by the echoes of her daughter's last cry. "Persephone?" She called out again and again into the calm night, but there was no answer. Demeter searched frantically until the sun rose. She did not find her daughter. 13 days and nights passed. Still Demeter looked, never stopping for rest nor food. Each evening the moon waned thinner and thinner and gave off less and less light. By the 14th night, the moon showed her ebony face. Demeter had traveled to the far ends of the earth and waited for Hecate, the goddess of the dark moon, to appear. The sky was black, as though a veil had been thrown over the brightest stars. After a short time, a ghostly figure approached Demeter. "Sister," Hecate said, "I know why you seek my help, but I do not know where Persephone is. Perhaps Helios of the all-seeing sun can tell us." Together, Demeter and Hecate journeyed past the clouds to the top of the high mountain where Helios, the sun god, lived. "Nothing can be done to help Persephone," Helios told Demeter. "She has been abducted by Hades, the lord of the underworld, to become his wife and rule over the dead. But Hades does love your daughter, and he is not an unworthy son-in-law." Demeter wept, thinking of her daughter inside the earth, where no sun fell nor flower grew. Surely Zeus, ruler of us all, will help. Zeus won't, goddess. He gave Hades permission to marry your daughter. Demeter's sorrow quickly turned to anger. Then I will not let wheat grow. Let the earth be as barren as this mother's heart. Immediately, trees began to wither, and grass turned brown with death. Deep in the underworld, surrounded by dark stone walls, Persephone sat next to Hades on a richly jeweled throne. A heavy golden crown rested upon her brow. Pale spirits danced gracefully before the king and queen to lighten their hearts. But Persephone looked away so that no one could see her tears. My wife, I have given you a kingdom to rule. Incomparable riches and my love, Hades said. How can I please you? Persephone answered, I miss my mother. I miss the sun and the green forests. I'm not used to darkness, my lord. Still, you have not eaten anything, nor shall I until I am reunited with my mother, she replied. Perhaps this will awaken your appetite, said Hades. He placed before Persephone a pomegranate, as red and rich in color as the unearthly Narcissus had been. From the fruits seeped a luscious fragrance. Tempted, Persephone held the pomegranate carefully and felt its cool surface upon her palms. Have you ever eaten a pomegranate? They're very yummy. On Earth, without Demeter's guidance, the trees remained barren of fruit, and wheat did not grow. For the first time, winter visited Earth. Ice formed on tree branches, and snow covered the ground, softening the cries of the hungry birds. In her grief, Demeter disguised herself as an old hag and wandered aimlessly mourning Persephone. During her travels, some recognized the goddess despite her rags. No matter how they begged her to make spring return, Demeter refused. Zeus observed this, yet remained steadfast in his decision. But when mortal men and women began to starve, he finally surrendered to Demeter. He agreed to reunite Persephone with her mother, but only if she had not eaten. The earth opened, allowing a brief ray of sunlight to enter the underworld before it closed once more. Even in the darkness, Persephone could see the brilliant corn gold of Demeter's hair. "Mother!" she cried joyously as she ran into the goddess's arms. "You have come for me! I can go home with you!" "Yes, my darling, but first," Demeter's anxious eyes searched Persephone's face. "Tell me, have you eaten anything since you've been here? If you have, you must stay." Persephone said she had not, but she could not meet her mother's gaze. Hades stepped down from the throne to take his wife's hands away from Demeter's. "Then, Persephone, where is the pomegranate I gave you?" "I know not," Persephone answered meekly. It must be found before you leave me. Surely you remember where it is." Still, Persephone denied knowing. They persisted with their questions. Finally, Persephone yielded the fruit from the fold of her gown. Her face was pale and nervous. Six seeds were missing from the pomegranate. "Persephone stays," Hades shouted. "She has eaten. She has only tasted a few seeds," protested Demeter. If my daughter does not return with me, I shall die of grief." Now Persephone stepped forward. She stood between her mother and her husband with a new serenity and strength. "I shall decide in this matter," she said. "True, I have eaten the pomegranate, but my husband, if you love me, you will understand that I am not a creature of darkness. Allow me to return to the sun and the flowers I love. Allow me to leave with my mother, and I will return to you 6 months of the year, a month for each seed I have eaten." Pluto was silent. Hades was silent. He could find little fault with Persephone's logic, and he did love her. With sadness, he allowed her to leave. Alone, he held the pomegranate. Over the land, the snow melted into rushing brooks, carrying water to nurture new life. Ice dissolved from the trees, which began to bloom after the harsh winter. Sweet-smelling flowers blossomed all over the fields and forests. Once again, Persephone and her mother walked through the meadows, enjoying each other's company, and even more Persephone and her mother walked through the meadows, enjoying each other's company even more because of their separation. But every year, after the harvest is brought in, Persephone always remembers her promise to Hades and returns to him. Then Demeter grieves and brings on winter. 6 months later, when Persephone reappears from the dark underworld, Demeter rejoices and the earth blooms again with spring. What did you think of that story? Did you like Hades? Did you like Persephone? Did you like her mother? Did you like the way they described that it was a myth about why we have seasons? If we didn't have seasons, then we wouldn't be able to have apples, and apples make apple cider, which is really quite yummy. I hope Liadan doesn't mind me drinking her cider. Well, that's all the time we have for this. So let's get on with another craft.